Welcome back to Just Giants with Grump and the Cranky Fan, the best damn podcast for the best damn football team. I am your host, the Football Grump, and with me as always is Mike the Cranky Fan.
It's going, Grump. As you can see by my dark features, I'm enjoying my vacation on the beach. It's been a lovely week down here. I know it sounds like there's nice weather up in New York also, but you can't beat 80 degrees and sunshine in Florida.
Well, there's been some great weather this week. If you stay inside and watch film all day, you're as pasty white as I am. Of course, you said that as I came from the gym, so I'm in a tank top, and wearing black. So this is as white as I've ever looked, I think.
And
it's embarrassing.
As you guys watch this show every week, I can't see him.
No, that's the thing. I can see him. He can't see me.
I have no idea what he looks like. I don't watch these shows after because I can't stand the sound of my voice, and I'm sure I say stupid things, so I don't need to relive it. But so I have no idea what he looks like when he's doing this. He could be naked for all I know. He could have a giant NY tattoo on his chest.
I could.
He's probably wearing one of those tank tops. Which
is funny because that's been my University of Florida nickname, I guess, the branded nickname.
Oh, sleeves.
Oh, is it sleeves?
Yeah, because you don't wear them.
Okay. It's too hot out. You guys live in a swamp. Like, the air is a swamp in Florida.
Literally, yeah. So.
No, this is an embarrassment. This is as white as I've ever looked. This is gross. Anyway.
Look nice and tan.
Yeah, you got all the features.
Yeah, the white on my beard is showing through.
I'm
pretty
over
good,
here.
Man.
I'm looking like snacks over here.
Well, on this Good Friday, I give this to both of you.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you. Nomine Patri. We're back at it with more draft stuff. We're hitting the easy stuff now. Running backs, this is kind of more of a fun thing. You know, I guess it's possible, right? You know, we're kind of looking at this. The Giants have so many needs. They've kind of attacked the running back position with budget free agents and stuff, right? And they currently have, you know, an all-talent guy on the roster for a fully guaranteed salary, so there's no way they can really get rid of him without trading him, which requires a partner. So they're kind of set at this position to not touch it at all this year. So,
well, let's before we talk about the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
You know, all the other running backs besides Barkley, as you say, would you be confident with just this rotation right now, before the draft, or even if we pick up somebody on cutdown day? Is this rotation acceptable for you, or would we have to do some work?
It's acceptable for this year, in my opinion. The running back position is one of those spots where it is so contingent on the talent around you, where it's you know, the skill position players are the things where you can see traits here and there in film, but if they play on shitty teams, like, okay, I don't want to bring up too much of the elephant in the room here, but Saquon Barkley is a Pro Bowler on like 25 NFL rosters, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
when healthy.
But that's the thing, is he nearly as hurt when he's not trying to do everything himself? And I'm not taking the blame off of Barkley for his own faults. I mean, he's got his pass blocking faults. He doesn't run into contact sometimes. He tries to do too much. But in general, does he get hurt so? I mean, he wasn't really hurt at Penn State the whole time he was there.
I don't know. I don't think we used him as a guy like who ran 35 times a game and was on almost every snap. I think some of these injuries are just kind of the course of doing business.
Some of them, well, especially the one last year where he just kind of backed onto somebody's foot and twisted his ankle. I've done that. But, you know, in general, I guess my point is that Saquon Barkley is a Pro Bowler on 25 NFL rosters, but he's on one of the, 7 that are so bad that he's just not. He doesn't look very good, right?
Well, I don't know. I mean, we haven't really seen healthy Barkley in what, 3 years now?
3 years.
So that's kind of unfair to say. I mean, Barkley coming off the ACL last year, I don't think looks like a Pro Bowler to anybody.
Well,
What the offensive line is. So let's see. He's now been, we're coming a year removed from the surgery, more than a year removed, a full offseason of offseason workouts and conditioning and, getting back into fighting shape. I mean, right now would be the test to see what he really is.
Yeah, I think you're right. But I mean, when you look at this stable of running backs here, you have a 3-down back in Saquon Barkley that has some elite traits there. So you have a legit skill position player there, and then you've got an experienced back in Matt Breida behind him that they signed to a 1-year deal for $1 million roughly. And then behind that, they have a promising young talent that they liked up in Buffalo with Antonio Williams. And they have last year's 6th-round draft pick, Gary Brightwell.
Sixth round.
Yeah. Gary Brightwell, who's kind of a special teamer. His reps on offense look very rudimentary. Take him or leave him. But they have a stable here where you have an experienced backup who's got talent. You've got a promising young talent in Williams, and you've got the Pro Bowl talent, Pro Bowl talent first round. I mean, I think they're okay for this year.
Do you feel Breida is an upgrade over Devonte Booker?
I think it's close. I think he's probably a little faster. I think it's close and negligible, but I also didn't think that Booker played badly last year. If he were retained for the exact same role, I would have been okay. How about you?
What was Brady signed for? What was his money?
$1.1 million.
Okay, so you're saving about $1 million going down from Booker to him. So, again, all things equal is one thing, but what's real life? That $1 million probably offsets. I mean,
well, let's be serious here. The Giants should be starting to lift up the couch cushions for money at this point, right? So I mean, saving $1 million, that ain't nothing,
Yeah.
I mean, in normal years, saving $1 million is kind of like, did you need to get rid of talent to save $1 million? This year, I mean, they're trying to save hundreds of thousands of dollars.
And let's face it, if either Barkley gets hurt again or they do trade Barkley, they are pretty much waving the white flag for this year, in which we have said countless times we're okay with. We are okay with. So does it really matter who that extra running back is going to be at that point? It's going to be the season's kind of going to be shot as it is if they get rid of him or if he's out for a indefinite amount of time. So I guess it's really picking nits a little bit about what is Brady going to give you as opposed to Booker, or as long as we have somebody that we have some sort of running game, and I think with Brady we have something.
So what percentage would you say the running game do you credit to if you had to pick between? I guess the 3 main contributors to a running game are the running back itself, the offensive line, and the scheme, right? Mm-hmm. How much would you credit to the running back? 20%?
I was going to say about 30. I think.
Yeah.
I'd say the offensive line is the biggest reason, overwhelmingly. Then it's the running back. Then I think the scheme falls third. I think if you have a good running back and a good offensive line, doesn't matter what scheme they're in.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, and also there's a fourth component to that too. How good's your passing game?
Well, that's true. Yeah.
I mean, if you can't throw the ball a lick and you can't do anything downfield or anything, and you're relying on that running back, it's going to be virtually impossible. You're going to have the safeties and linebackers creeping up, and it's going to make it virtually impossible to run if they're expecting it. So I would say that's even more important than scheme.
Yeah. So trading Barkley and waving the white flag on this year, I'm okay with, on the condition that we're doing the right thing here. Like, what am I trying to say? I guess if the investment is heavy on the offensive line, and it hasn't been so far. I mean, I know they went out and they got a center guy. They got this right guard who's going to probably start, and they got this right tackle. But the center, Feliciano, is... he's a fringe starter to begin with. Matt Gono is not a starter at all at right tackle. That's a problem if he's starting. But Matt Glowinski is a legitimate starter at right guard. But if they supplement that in the draft with a legit right tackle, with a legit center, or a legit left guard, or something like that, you just get 2 legit players right there. I don't even give a shit if they get rid of Barkley at all, because I think Breida would be able to give you a serviceable running game anyway with an improved offensive line.
Well, let's kind of start from the very beginning with Barkley. Do we think that Saquon Barkley is a part of the long-term plan for this team? No,
I don't.
No. So if you think he's not part of the long-term plan, I think in your mind you move him.
If you can,
Of course, and I'm not saying cut him, but I think we are not going to be in a position to utilize him to the fullest extent for at least until next year, at least. And then it's going to be after decision time of how do you re-sign him and how much you'd be willing to pay him for him. You know, I don't think he's part of the long-term plan. I just don't think the timing works out, unfortunately. I don't think this offensive line, and especially if next year we move on from Daniel Jones, you know, and whether it be we draft a rookie, a raw rookie coming in, or we have a stopgap like a Kurt Warner type who's just kind of buying time for this rookie quarterback to play, that's another year wasted for Barkley. Now we're talking about what, his 6th year, 7th year?
Yeah.
From a guy who's had multiple injuries, one a very significant one. I mean, the thread on the tires is starting to go pretty bare.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is that the only way I can see them re-signing him in any capacity is if he's injured again. And at that point, well, I mean, in terms of...
What do I want him for then? He's injured again.
Exactly. I mean, like, in terms of what they would be able to afford, and, you know, he's going to command too much money just because he is that name. So even if he has a poor year this year because the team isn't very good...
Let's stop right there. Does he still have that name, that cachet around the league? I mean, nobody's, you know, he's not going to sell tickets, you know, I don't think, if he goes to Jacksonville, for example. It's not like bringing in Brady.
Well, I think, and I've mentioned this before as a possible landing spot for him mid-year, but, you know, next year might be one of those teams that feels like they're a contender. They might spend the extra $1 million to go get him because they think they can get something out of him. The same way like Tampa Bay would go out and get Fournette. Yeah. I mean, Fournette's playing in Jacksonville where people go to die. And Fournette looked like a loser there, right? I mean, that team is terrible. It's terribly built. It's not consistent. The coaching is bad. Yeah. I mean, it's a total mess. And he goes to Tampa. He literally drives 2 hours across the state to the other city, and he's a star, and they win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, well, a lot of talent around him, but they made the same mistake we did. What was he drafted? 6th, Fournette?
Yeah,
5th,
yeah.
6th?
You know what though? Same mistake we did, but I was a lot higher on Barkley than Fournette myself.
See, I did not love him. I hated him. He went to LSU. He killed us, but he was one of the few guys I saw. Like, and again, I've been kind of more wrong than right with running backs, where I'm like, this guy is going to be a future Hall of Famer, and I was dead wrong about Trent Richardson.
Oh, so was I.
I thought I ended up being dead wrong about Leonard Fournette because that guy looked like a man in college, and I'm like, this guy's going to be a total badass. And it took a little while to click. It's obviously when you have the right offensive line, you have Tom Brady, you have all these things around you, it makes you better as well.
Well, I'll say that he looked like a man in college until his last year there. Then he looked like a wimp. Well, that's why I was lower on him.
He acted like a wimp. He had senioritis. He did not, you know, he did everything he can as a guy who knew he was going to be a high draft pick and just wanted to get through that senior year. He did get hurt in it. He missed the Florida game, I believe, his senior year. He didn't play in the bowl game. He was one of the first guys in the modern, you know, last couple of years who like, I'm not playing in the bowl game. I'm preparing for the combine. So he kind of gave the perception of a guy that didn't really care. But, you know, he's in their mind.
But even in the games he played that year, he looked like shit. He played
like a guy who didn't want to get hurt. He played like a guy
100%.
And that's
so I mean that knocked him down my list a little bit just because of effort. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm, sure. Let me ask you something though. Going back to Barkley though, if we are really trying to evaluate Daniel Jones this year, does trading Barkley mid-season hurt that?
I don't think it's so. I mean, technically, yeah, but I don't think it hurts it in the same way. Not addressing the offensive line hurts it. You know, continuing to run an offense that doesn't allow Daniel Jones to throw deep balls. But, I mean, yeah, it affects it. I mean, it's talent, right? Saquon Barkley is talent.
He's the only guy you can really see this middle of this season that would be like a salary dump of getting rid of guys. Like, we're not getting rid of any offensive linemen. You know, we're not getting rid of any wide receivers in the middle of the season to save money. He's really the only guy that's kind of the question mark. And, you know...
it would have to be by trade only.
Yeah, and again, it kind of goes back to my question about are you confident in that the rotation of the other three guys that we have, that if Barkley does go away, that we can have some sort of a running game.
Well, I mean, that brings me right back to the white flag argument. I'm okay with it I'm okay with waving the white flag on this year, knowing that you're doing the right things to punt correctly, which means if they invested heavily on the offensive line, I know that Breida will give me enough. Antonio Williams will give me enough this year, and next year we can adequately readdress the secondary concern of running back.
My question back to you is, it's adequately enough to get by, but is it adequately enough to make a data point that can help the Daniel Jones question that has to be answered?
I think so, because I think they're serviceable running backs, and don't forget that Daniel Jones is a runner himself. So that RPO, that zone read game, I mean, as long as they're good enough to run that, I mean, it helps Daniel Jones. And again...
It probably helps Saquon Barkley, too, or whatever running back we have.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the RPO works in everybody's favor. I think it covers up a lot of deficiencies, but at the end of the day, the biggest thing that's going to help this team is the offensive line, which is what we're really getting to next week. And that's the meat and potatoes of it all. But like we said, like offensive line overwhelmingly is the indicator of what a running back's impact is going to be, and of course quarterback as well. So yeah, all this stuff kind of affects the evaluation of Daniel Jones. But if they're really serious about evaluating DJ this year, then they're dumping their investment in the offensive line, because that's really what's going to show them. Barkley, Williams, Breida, these guys all affect that, but I'm not sure. What do you think is the percentage chance that there's a buyer for Barkley and his contract before the season starts?
Before the season starts, very low.
Okay. What about let's say mid-season?
Yeah, I think the entire league is just waiting for us to have the fire sale. I think they want to see what he does during the season. I think they want to make sure that he's healthy and he can be an effective runner being healthy. I don't think it. First of all, I just don't think, based on the offensive line and the offense and all of these things, that Barkley's going to have an Eric Dickerson type of year where all of a sudden he's running for 180 yards every single game. I think he'll be effective. I don't think he'll be great. So I don't think his market value is going to skyrocket from before the season to before the trade deadline.
So assuming that we're like, I don't know, 3-5, 4-5, something like that, he looks okay. He's churning out about 3.5 yards per carry, 4 yards per carry, something close to that.
Yeah. I think the record's irrelevant.
The record is relevant only insofar that it's possible the Giants are willing to move on from a guy who is producing. It's like, is this season really worth it for you guys? Do you want this contract? We'll take this guy off your hands. We'll trade you this. You know what I mean? Like, if we were, let's just say 5-3 and actually doing things in the division, I'm a little bit less likely to, not the fat chance, but that's not really the point. I'm less willing to move on from Barkley at that point, because he's off the books next year anyway. So if I'm getting rid of him,
that's the $1 million question: is, are we going to stick to a plan? And if we're 5-3, is it fool's gold, or is this like, we look at this roster, we see it right now. This team is 5-3. There's a much better chance that's a smoke and mirrors 5-3 than this team is legitimately a 5-3 team.
Yeah, and getting rid of him, yeah, sure, it clears up $7 million for this year, but that's at that point, midseason is kind of.
Well, it's not $7 million anymore, right? Isn't it kind of like prorated based on the year? Like,
I don't think so. I think his contract it's part of the option, so it's a fully guaranteed amount that's pre-calculated.
Okay.
Maybe it is less. I understand what you're saying. Yeah, it's prorated per game. So like,
but the cap saving, we have no cap savings even getting rid of him. It's not a question like we're not cutting him because there's no cap savings. It's a question of what we get in return.
Yeah. So you'd be trading him. So essentially, you'd be getting assets. Is really what you're getting. It's not about the cap savings. The cap savings would be enough for maybe some injury relief signings and stuff like that. But
I almost, again, because we both agree that he's not part of the future. Right. I almost want him to kick ass for the games where we're 5-3. I want him to.
Hell yeah, that's what I'm saying. Get rid of him.
I want to have 250 yards every game. I want him to have highlight films. I want him to all of a sudden flex us into Sunday night every week to show this guy all these things.
And I still want to get rid of him.
And then trade him. Everybody's gonna be super pissed off. But something. It's about the future. It's about what can we do? How do we build this team the right way for sustainable success going forward? It might suck for this year. If we're a 5-3, but it's like how it was in 2020. It's like, okay, we're a playoff. we're in the playoffs, not a playoff team, and we don't want to be that. We want to build for. If we're 5-3, it does not change the fact that this offensive line needs a lot of work. We still need help in the secondary. We need all these things. We have a quarterback discussion. All of these things are not going to change.
Right. So the needs of the team are irrelevant to the record. The needs of the team are the needs of this team. If they're 5-3, that's just dumb luck, or maybe just that's just the effect of a better scheme.
And as a fan base, be smarter and be better. Think of what the big picture is, because again, if they make this trade and we are having any hint of success, people are going to go be outraged about it. They're like, what is same old Giants, or what are they doing? Or, and it's, again, we're most likely not going to re-sign Saquon Barkley going forward. Again, the age, the tread on the tires, all these different things. We have a lot of needs we're going to have to, the Daniel Jones question, if we decide we're going to re-sign Daniel Jones, that's going to cost a pretty penny.
I would actually argue that re-signing Barkley would be closer to same old Giants than letting him walk.
That's interesting. I mean, I can't think off the top of my head of signing. I mean, that's not. I'm not comparing that to Leonard Williams by any stretch.
No, neither am I. I think it's more just like. I guess it's not even historically with the Giants. It's just been the last few years. It's almost like, I don't know, getting the name back. I don't know. I wouldn't say selling jerseys, but kind of selling jerseys.
No, I mean, again, selling jerseys, you're getting 1/32 of that money, so that's no big deal. The tickets have been sold out for 1,000 years.
No, I just mean like a palpable face of the organization needing to be there. You know what I mean?
Again, I said this back when we did the first show in the offseason. You know what the face of my franchise is?
The trophies.
One of those Vince Lombardi trophies. That's the face of my franchise.
I agree.
And I'm not worried. I don't care that my third cousin once removed is going to watch a Giant game because there's Saquon Barkley. I mean, Saquon Barkley is not Michael Jordan. He's not LeBron James.
Nope.
He's not these guys. It's. I say that, but something. When the Giants are on the first Monday night game this year, and they're on 3 times on primetime, we're like, why is this crappy team on? It's going to be because of Saquon Barkley, which
I would say
the rest of the league is going to laugh at, and all the other fan bases are. But the Giants are a TV draw, because they're the Giants. Like it or not, NFL, they draw. They're one of probably 5 or 6 teams that no matter how good or bad they are, they bring fans to visiting stadiums. They get ratings on TV. And when it's interdivision, when it's Giants Cowboys, Giants Eagles, Giants Commanders, I mean, you're going to raise the need a little bit. I mean, granted, those probably, might be the Thursday night game that they're on, but they draw. And it's not because of Barkley. So and also, is Barkley really is he really a qualified face of the franchise for how much?
He's not, but he's the TV face of the team. When the NBC stupid breaks with all their dumbass graphics that they throw in your face instead of actually broadcasting the game, it's always this big thing of Barkley and, of course, the quarterback. It's Barkley. You know what I mean? And I don't really have a problem with that. It's just...
It should make nothing for decision making with this franchise.
Exactly. So yeah, exactly.
And as a fan, you should feel the same way as well. I mean, we all like him. He seems like a nice guy. He comes back from an injury. We're all glad for that. But I mean, we're not talking about Frank Gifford here, guys. This isn't Phil Simms. This isn't LT. This isn't Michael Strahan. This isn't guys that are they're not. He's not in that level of face of franchise thing. And what do you rather have? A guy like him playing for the next 7 years with a mediocre team, or do you want to be a relevant team? Do you want games after Thanksgiving to matter? Do you want to have your January's booked by going to the Meadowlands as opposed to, talking about the draft in November like we've been doing? So I just think we still have to play the long game on this and just have to cut our losses is not the right word, but just move on.
Yeah. All right, so moving on then. Let's move on from the Barkley conversation. Let's move on from, the future of this team, we both agree Barkley's probably not it. Breida's not even signed. So you have this promising young guy in Antonio Williams who may still be the promising young guy at the end of the year. He may be something more. He may be something less. Gary Brightwell also probably not going to be much of anything, may not even be here. So the running back position is kind of a problem for tomorrow Giants and not today Giants. That said, there's nothing wrong with taking one this year, especially in the later rounds. Running backs, Ahmad Bradshaw's a 7th round draft pick. There are ways to obtain running backs super late and make them serviceable. We said that the offensive line is overwhelmingly more impactful to a running back's game than the running back himself.
It's a position that, people overspend, they overdraft, they overspend for, and then when it's cut down day, they're available.
Yeah.
And I just think I certainly think this is a position that needs to be addressed, but it can be done on a later date. That's not something that everything has to be one of the first pillar that you do now that build around everything else. To me, it's just you put the infrastructure in place around it, and then you go get your running back.
Yeah. So and that's what the Giants screwed up. Dave Gettleman said that he wanted to get the hog mollies, and he said you got to be able to run the ball, and he flip flopped the order. He got the running back first, and I guess he never really got the hog mollies. He tried. He failed a little bit there, but he signed guys.
Yeah.
That's I agree with you. Like the running back position is way too reliant on other things to be effective. Same thing with quarterback. So if you need to upgrade those positions, you should be upgrading your line first and then upgrading whatever.
And obtaining one should not jump frog or leapfrog other positions of greater need. So
yeah. So that said, it's totally possible, as we get into the later rounds of the draft, in the 6th, 7th round, you can get a guy who plays special teams, may not break the lineup, or you might be able to get a starting running back in there. So I have no problem with the Giants drafting a running back this year, under the right circumstances, the right talent, etc. So it is possible. I could see it happening. I think it's probably more likely to be a UDFA this year and then a priority next year, when there's no running backs under contract. But it's worth talking about because, I guess in Buffalo they kind of had some track record of going after the mid-round guys in that 3rd, 4th, 5th range. I could see that when we have 2 third-round picks, that would be unwise in my opinion. But as we get into the 4th and 5th rounds, I could be swayed into the right guy. That said,
let me before you move forward.
Yep.
If we do draft one in the 4th or 5th round, let's say, is that kind of a signal to you that they are definitely making the move for Barkley?
No, I think that is on the table regardless. I think I hope if they get a guy in that 4th, 5th round, it's because they view him as legitimate talent that's probably worth more than that, and he's sitting there at best player available. At that point, if we're going that high, once we get down, like I said, 5th, 6th round, it becomes positional value because it's like, sure, I need linebackers, but in the 6th round, is this linebacker even going to play for us? Is he going to be a practice squad guy? Am I buying ceiling or can I get a starter? Right. So I would be okay with that. So I mean, like I said at the beginning, this is probably a tomorrow Giants problem. This is probably going to be a 2023 issue, not a 2022 issue. But I also think that a smart GM knows what he's getting when he's getting it. So it's totally possible for this year.
One more question for you. Do you think the likelihood of drafting a running back increases if we trade down one of the top picks and get more picks?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, because it's a BPA position. So once you start getting those more picks, you can start thinking more BPA and less filling needs. And always, 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 always Jimmys and Joes before X's and O's. Remember what you're doing here. I mean, if you need an edge rusher, getting one in the 5th round is useless. I mean, the odds of that edge rusher being anything or a left tackle being anything in the 5th round are so astronomical. You might as well get a starter at a different position.
And one example of it working is an exception, not a rule. So
correct.
It's not saying it could never happen, but do you want, with this roster right now, what we're trying to do, you want to roll the dice that that's going to happen? Not me. Yeah. We need as many sure things as we can in this draft, next draft after.
All right, so let's go to the sure things. These are the ones that I don't think the Giants have any shot at, and they are the best ones in this draft. Now, remember when I assign grades to these, that's based on talent, not where I would draft them. So when I say Brees Hall from Iowa State is second-round talent, I mean that's where his talent belongs. That's probably not a smart draft decision. So if you are sitting in the late third round and you see Brees Hall is still sitting there, that is good value. So that's really what I'm saying here. So just because I say that doesn't mean that's where I would take him. That's where he probably belongs talent-wise. All things have to be considered here. Also, the structure of your roster, and so on. Brees Hall, Iowa State. Wow, I thought James Cook was. I mean, I knew that this wasn't going to be like a massive need for the Giants this year, but I thought James Cook was going to be the number one guy for me. But Brees Hall really looks good. If it weren't for the fact that he doesn't contribute all that much in the passing game, I would say he'd be closer to first round talent. He just runs the basic running back routes. I think that his pass blocking is just okay. He keeps his head on a swivel. He identifies the rushers pretty well. He squares up, but he's just not that aggressive. He's not as good as I would like him to be for what I would consider first round talent, but good enough for to be a 3-down back. That's second round talent in my opinion. And he's got 4.39 straight ahead speed. That's serious juice. Although the 40 times this year have to be such bullshit. So many guys are sub 4.4. It's like unbelievable.
Let me ask you, do you think guys are training more and more for like their 40s and more for the things they're testing on in the combine and the pro days than they were in the past, so their numbers might be, better than they were just because they're training specifically for it?
Yes, but also I think there was some issue with I think like all the times are unofficial this year or something. There was something with I don't know. I don't watch the combine because I don't really care. I just kind of look up the clips. But I think there was something where like all the 40 times are unofficial and they're all really fast too. I could be totally wrong about that though. So, gotcha. But to answer your question, I think yes. With that said, moving into that like second, third round range, I really liked Kenneth Walker from Michigan State more than I liked James Cook also. This dude, I watched 0 Michigan State games this like year, I guess, like live. So, I watched some stuff there. But again, 4.38 speed. He's got that 5'10", 200 pounds, 210 pounds frame. Pretty close to what I would consider an ideal NFL body type for the position. And I think he has a really good ability to run through tacklers and rip his body away from reaching arms. He's just got that aggressive twist to his body. He really knows how to break tackles. It's just like a trait that running backs need to have, especially behind the line of scrimmage. Also, he's got that behind the line of scrimmage aspect to his game down really, really well. Nice patient feet. Good vision to identify the hole, and excellent burst to hit the hole at full speed and before it closes. And he likes to lower his shoulder and essentially end lives. I really like Kenneth Walker III. It's a shame that this team can't replace Barkley with a talent like his because, god damn, I do love a good running back, and I hate to say all this stuff about how running backs don't matter because I wish they did. But why don't you tell me a little about James Cook from Georgia, since you got to see him pound everyone into the dirt for a couple of years?
I saw him in person twice at Florida-Georgia games. He's, a cousin of Dalvin Cook?
I think so.
So can you imagine that? A cousin went to Florida State and he went to Georgia, so you can tell you what kind of... My love of the guy is, just part of Georgia is a very base offense. Georgia's always going to win in the SEC and be on the national, landscape because of their defense and have an offense that just won't screw things up. He's been in a rotation of very quality running backs for the last couple of years. He's got the speed, shifty, took our defensive line, which we have talked about in earlier episodes, and kind of cut through them a little bit. So, yeah, I think he's, I don't know. Again, I'm not the draft evaluator like you are, but it looks to me like he can have a nice little NFL career.
I might like him more than Dalvin Cook if I'm being totally honest here. He's got 4.42 speed. He's so fast through the hole, and I think he's got great speed in. I mean, he's a home run hitter. Well, yeah.
You got a lot of this and goes. Yeah.
I think Dalvin Cook is probably a little faster, but I don't think James Cook has the ball security issues that he does. Or at least I'm not seeing it. And not for nothing, this dude actually is useful in the passing game. I think he does impact the passing game pretty well. He's a solid hands catcher. I think he catches in stride pretty well. I think he runs some pretty crisp routes. I mean, a lot of these running backs, they run as fast as they can to the spot. That's their route. But he's got a lot of shimmy and cut to him.
Yeah, and remember with Georgia's offense, like I said, they're trying to make mistakes. They had a quarterback that was pretty limited in ability in Stetson Bennett. So it's not like you're expecting the deep bomb or just the deep out slot. They were relying heavily on that running game. So you had, like we said before, linebackers and safeties kind of creeping up.
Oh, yeah.
Stop the run. I mean, that's what we did in the first half against them. And, up until we had 2 bad turnovers in the final 2 minutes, that was like a 7-3 game because we were doing just that. We were daring them to run the ball. But then again, their talent took over. So that's something to think about with him as well.
Yeah, I would say his big knock for me is going to be his pass blocking. Not a whole lot of that at Georgia, like we said. Not a lot of him being in one-on-one situations blocking. I think he dips his head a little too much. But he's okay. He's okay. He can identify the blitzers and do things with there. All right, let's slide past round 3 where I have Zamir White, the other Georgia guy. I do not understand some people who have him ranked higher than James Cook. I don't know where that comes from.
I thought he was better.
Yeah? I mean...
the eye test of seeing them both in person.
I could be wrong. I have them graded fairly closely. I just... Yeah. I didn't see it that way. But let's go into round 4, and this is a guy I initially didn't think I was going to like as much as I ended up liking him, and to me was one of the stars of the Senior Bowl, and that's Damian Pierce from Florida. Damian Pierce, before you go nuts, I will say in a lot of ways does not appear to be, just from a quick eye test, if I were to give you a stat sheet or something like that, doesn't look like he's going to be anything serious. 4.59 40 time, 5'10", 215 is pretty good for height, weight, whatever, but he doesn't have like crazy stats. So why don't you tell me what about Damian Pierce? Go ahead.
Well, first of all, from the stat standpoint, we're talking about game stats. He might be the most misused player at the University of Florida in the last 20 years. We have a pretty stacked running back room last year. Damian Pierce, Malik Davis, a bunch of guys. We had a couple of 5-stars who didn't even see the field. Again, everybody's heard me. They're probably sick to death of hearing me complain about Dan Mullins, the quarterback. He just never used him enough. I mean, the guy only had 100 carries last year. That's, not even 10 carries a game. Still ran at 5.7 yards per attempt. And he had 13 rushing touchdowns. I mean, think about that. That's someone that around the goal line knows how to score. And you're talking about a team that was severely challenged in the red zone, severely challenged getting to the red zone. But he was a guy that for 3 yards will bull his way through. And we're talking about, against teams like Georgia, he scored. And so I think he is one of the biggest hidden gems in this whole entire draft because he was underutilized. And he doesn't have, a lot of threat. We talked about Saquon Barkley with tread on the tires, not a lot left. He's got a ton. Again, because being in that very crowded backfield, this rotation that they use, this ridiculous, stupid rotation, he's pretty spry and pretty fresh. Also can catch the ball too. He had, I think, about 45 career catches also.
Yeah. I am sad that I don't think it's feasible for the Giants to draft Damian Pierce. I really, really like him. I really like a lot of what he does. Behind the line of scrimmage, he shows really good patience. He has pretty good vision to identify cutback lanes, and you can tell everybody for the next 45 minutes how bad Florida's offensive line was that he was playing behind.
For multiple years, how bad.
Let
me put it this way. I spend probably way too much time talking about Florida for all you Giant fans. Probably could care less. But for all the guys that I've spotlighted, whether it was, any of the defensive backs or the defensive linemen, This is the one guy I think has the most potential in the NFL to be not only a rotational running back, but a guy who could turn out to be a breakout star.
More than Elam, you think?
Yes.
Interesting. So I think I might agree with that too. And I really like Kaiir Elam, and I've liked him for a number of years now at Florida. I was excited when he got recruited there.
I think Kaiir Elam's gonna be really good. I mean, if you put him in that pantheon of what DBU is at Florida, he might be in the second tier of guys we've had. I mean,
I agree with that. Yeah.
He's not a Joe Hayden. He's not guys like them, but I just think this guy is something special and just hasn't been utilized. And I think he gets the opportunity. If he's put in the right situation to be successful, I think he will be.
Yeah, I think the one thing that really holds him back outside of his lack of film, I guess, or I guess just lack of carries, is he just has average speed to below average speed. You know what I mean? For a running back, his 4.59 40 time is not something that you would draw up in a factory.
He's not a home run hitter. He's a tough running back, a guy who can, first hit, pop somebody. Again, red zone, fantastic. And these are things that we need because we have a big problem in the red zone. We have a problem getting in the red zone, and then we have a problem once we're in the red zone.
I would be remiss if I didn't talk about the thing I like most about him, and that is his pass blocking is so advanced for a guy coming out of college. And I am sure people who follow me on Twitter are kind of sick of me talking about this, but he was selected. So I think it was the Lions training group, Dan Campbell's training group at the Senior Bowl, that they would pick star players for each practice to do, end of practice reps. And Damian Pierce was selected, and DeMarco Jackson, I believe, from Appalachian State, were selected for a pass rush, pass blocking end of practice rep. And it was probably the highlight of the day. Damian Pierce just absolutely stonewalled him, sustained, and threw him to the ground. 100% free rush at the quarterback, and he denied it. It was insane. The whole group of players swarmed him afterward. It was outstanding.
I remember the text you sent me from out there. It just said Pierce ! I'm like, huh? And then I looked on Twitter, and then I saw people were there. Were like, whoa! So,
yeah, and I was so pissed.
That was one of the standout highlights of the trip.
Yeah, that was the rainy day, and it was, like I said, after practice, so I forgot, and I thought that we were just done, so I had put my phone away, and I didn't get a recording of it, but, I mean, there's plenty of video. There was a guy recording right behind the play, so you can see it, whatever, and I've retweeted it, whatever, it's everywhere. But he is a very good pass blocker. I would put him as 4th-round talent. The Giants would be very lucky to have him. He's among names like Brian Robinson and Hassan Haskins. Dipping into the later rounds, Rashad White, Arizona State. I really like Devonte Price from FIU. My big thing with him is that he is 6'2", and he runs at 6'2". He's got to get lower. He has to start running lower. But there's something there. Into the later rounds, Abram Smith from Baylor I like, but I want to highlight someone else because he's a local kid. I think there's a chance also that he might be one of those just one of those UDFAs because he's so local, and it's the Rutgers kid, Isaiah Pacheco.
Okay.
He has the deficiency of having to have had to play at Rutgers, which is...
Well, you're playing in the Big Ten. You're playing against top competition.
And you don't have top talent on your team. I mean,
That's
he's
true.
surrounded by it might have been the worst quarterback I've seen in a while. I was watching him throw interceptions directly at Wisconsin defenders. But that said, let's keep it on Pacheco and what he's able to do while playing on a shit roster. So ignore some stats and really start looking at traits because, again, this is a guy who I view as 5th-round talent that's probably going to be available as a UDFA or 6th, 7th-round pick. 4.37 40 time. He has home run speed. He's fast. And we're going to talk about Bo Melton next week, the wide receiver from Rutgers as well. Another one that was dreadfully stuck in New Jersey.
Sounds like a lot of people. It sounds like a Springsteen song.
I don't know about that. He might be, I don't know, in paradise.
He was born to run then?
Yeah.
Thanks. Bye.
Yeah. So, yeah, 5'11", 215 pounds. I know that that's usually the NFL body type, but there's more to it than just numbers. Remember, he's got a little bit of a narrow base. He's got narrow hips. He's got a narrow waist. That affects balance. That is not nothing. And that comes up in blocking, and it comes up with shedding tackles. But that said, he has some pretty decent balance. He's got a pretty decent stiff arm. He's got that smaller frame, though, so he's not really likely to be doing a lot of head-on colliding or anything like that. But remember, we're talking about a late-round thing here. He doesn't have to be an every down back. He can be a scat back. He can be a special teamer. He can be, situational runner, things like that. He can develop over time if we want to. He runs some pretty decent running back routes with no shimmy or anything like that. But, just remember the speed here. And as far as his blocking goes, he does a really good job of keeping his feet underneath him really well. Really good job of squaring up. He's got a pretty solid initial punch, but again, remember, smaller frame, he tends to lean into it a little too much, where he can start to dip his head, and a smarter, stronger defensive lineman can just throw him aside. But aside from that, he sustains pretty well. It's a pretty decent pass blocker.
How much of that could be coached out of him?
All of it.
Okay.
All of it. He's got to hit the weight room. But again, remember, he's always going to have narrow hips. There's no amount of working out will widen that. But,
I know.
But... I actually really like him. I didn't think I was going to. I only watched him because Nick Filato, said some nice things about him, and I respect his opinion, so I gave it a shot, and I came away liking him. Remember, I do think the Giants should be looking 6th, 7th round for these guys, UDFA for these guys, but if I have them marked as UDFA, 6th, 7th round, that's where I grade their talent. So really, in those later rounds, you want to see the guys that are falling, that are graded higher, that are just kind of, the low-hanging, not low-hanging fruit. That's the wrong metaphor. I guess.
Low-hanging fruit.
Yeah, I guess so.
No,
yeah.
No.
It doesn't seem right. That's usually like negative.
No, low-hanging fruit's the easy stuff.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah,
I think it's just the wrong analogy. I think
yeah. Whatever. Whatever falls to them. Yeah. A lot of these guys I have graded for the later rounds, I wouldn't expect anything at all.
So I'm going to put you on the spot here. And
here I am.
If you don't know the answer, we can just edit this out. But is there anybody out there who's currently on a roster that you could see being the victim of the Turk that we would be interested in? Or is that impossible to tell at this point?
No, this year? Or in future years?
This year.
I don't think we have the money.
Even if someone gets cut and it's just for...
Well, it's so hard to say because, like I said, we don't even have money for this draft class we've been talking about for the last 2 months.
So that's for this year then, I've been saying it all
I think they've already done it, though. They did the Breida thing. They did the Antonio Williams thing. I think they've done their free agency dip for the year in running backs.
Okay, that's fair. Sure.
Which is, they invested. They were able to get 2 for $2 million.
All right, so you don't have to edit that then. Perfect.
Nice. Look at that.
Nice. Yeah.
I have my Friday night to myself.
Good for you.
That said, next week is our final week before the draft. We've got to cover the offensive linemen and the wide receivers. That's all that's left.
Wow.
And then we start doing draft stuff.
Jeez, how about that?
Yeah. And on draft night, I'm thinking it's going to be night 1, but I'm not 100% sure yet. It may be 2 nights, still not 100% sure, but I will be in the John Boy Media offices in Manhattan with Justin and Bobby to do the draft live on their channel. So, of course, you guys...
Really?
Yes,
wow,
yes.
That's news.
Yeah. We're ironing out those details now, sort of.
You're doing it in person? You'll be there?
Yes. I will be there.
Too?
What's up?
Everybody will be there?
I believe so. I think it's going to be Justin and Bobby, yeah.
Wow. How about that?
So it's going to be a shindig. When I have more details, I'll share them, but, things are flying around right now. I'm exhausted. We're all catching up. I did the live show with them Wednesday night, and we all 3 of us were kind of I was hoping to have had more done by now. But
God, I go on vacation and all these exciting things are happening, and I guess I should start looking at Twitter this week because I really haven't been at all.
Yeah, I haven't really been looking at Twitter either today. I actually saw at the gym just before recording this that Stephon Gilmore just signed with the Colts.
Oh,
something like that. whatever. But that said, next week, offensive linemen, wide receivers, and that will be it. We can start moving on to mock draft stuff. We can start talking specifically about the draft, start talking about big board stuff. And that will be the more exciting stuff that people like doing. So I'm sorry for those of you who are not film junkies, but I like
This is
junking.
film junkie season, so This is where we show tape. This is where we talk about it and how it applies to us. So.
And for fans of the cut-ups will return once the draft picks are made. There will be cut-ups of the drafted players. And there will be more if it's someone I've already done. It won't be the same set of cut-ups. I will cut up some more stuff.
Nice. All right.
We'll see you guys next week. Be sure to listen to us on iTunes, SoundCloud, Spotify. Did I miss any?
Google Play? YouTube.
And of course YouTube, where you can see all the good stuff. All the good stuff. My face.
You can see our sunburns. You can see his tank top. You can see how it's worked out today. You can see all that. A beard, everything.
Yeah.
Maybe we should just listen on the podcast.
It's yeesh. Sight for sore eyes. Not really. All right, guys. We'll catch you next time. Go Giants.
Giants.